She saw the blood first. Dark red, still wet, staining the cuffs of a man who could end her with one phone call. The elevator doors sealed them in. Just her, him, and the suffocating silence between survival and something far more dangerous. Then the lights died. No signal. No escape. Just two people who should never have met, trapped between floors where nobody could hear them scream. He asked her name like it mattered. Like she wasn't invisible. Like the blood on his hands wasn't there. And God help her, she answered. What happened in those 7 hours didn't just change their lives. It shattered every rule about who deserves love, who deserves redemption, and what happens when a woman with nothing meets a man who's lost everything that matters. This is the story of the elevator that stopped. And the two hearts that couldn't. Welcome back, my beautiful family and friends. If you are hooked in and ready to enjoy the story, click subscribe and let me know in the comments section where you are watching from, because tomorrow I'll be giving you an interesting story such as this one and you don't want to miss it. Now let us begin. The marble floors of the Castellan Tower gleamed under Camilla's mop, reflecting the city lights bleeding through floor-to-ceiling windows. 2:47 a.m. Her shoulders ached, a deep persistent burn that no amount of stretching could touch anymore. She'd been cleaning since midnight, 30 floors of luxury condos where people spent more on monthly fees than she made in a year. She moved with practiced efficiency, each stroke of the mop deliberate, quiet, invisible. That's what the supervisor had said on her first day. Good maids are invisible. They don't complain, don't ask questions, don't exist unless we need them. Camilla had nodded. She'd been invisible her whole life. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, probably Jessa wondering when she'd be home. The kids had school in 5 hours, and Camilla still had to pack their lunches, iron uniforms, maybe catch an hour of sleep before her morning shift at the diner. She silenced it. The faster she finished, the faster she could leave. The service elevator dinged behind her. She gathered her supplies, muscles moving through exhaustion. Just get home. That was the mantra. Get home, make sure the kids are okay, survive another day. 30 floors up, Enzo Volkov buttoned his suit jacket with bloodied knuckles, his movements mechanical. The penthouse meeting had gone as expected. Resistance, then compliance. They always complied eventually. That's what power looked like. Inevitability. His second-in-command, Dmitri, hovered near the door. The money's been transferred. Clean exit. Enzo said nothing. Clean. The word had lost meaning years ago. He could still feel Victor's collar in his grip, the man's pulse racing beneath expensive fabric. Fear was a language Enzo spoke fluently. It kept his empire running, kept enemies at bay, kept everyone at the exact distance he required. But lately, distance felt less like safety and more like suffocation. He waved Dmitri off and headed for the private elevator. His penthouse was only 3 floors up, but he needed the silence, needed to shed the night like a second skin before facing the empty rooms that awaited him. The elevator doors opened. Empty. Good. He stepped inside, catching his reflection in the polished brass. Blood dotted his French cuffs. He'd gotten careless. Or maybe just tired. At 42, the violence that once felt necessary now felt routine. Hollow. The doors began to close. Wait. Hold it, please. A woman's voice, breathless with exhaustion. Enzo's hand shot out reflexively, stopping the doors. A black woman in a faded cleaning uniform rushed in, dragging a cart loaded with supplies. She didn't look up, didn't meet his eyes, just mumbled a quick, "Thank you," and positioned herself in the far corner. Enzo withdrew his hand. The doors sealed them in. She smelled like lemon cleaner and something faintly sweet. Maybe lotion, maybe just the ghost of a life lived outside these walls. Her uniform hung loose on a thin frame, and her natural hair was pulled back in a simple bun, practical but elegant in its simplicity. She kept her eyes down, fingers wrapped around the cart handle like it was a shield. Invisible, Enzo thought. That's what she's trying to be. He recognized it because he'd spent his life making people feel exactly that way. The elevator hummed. Descending. 45. 44. Enzo stared at the numbers, hyper-aware of the woman's presence in a way that irritated him. She was nothing. Hired help, background noise. Yet her silence felt different from the terrified quiet he usually commanded. This was practiced. Chosen. Camila focused on breathing steadily, her heart hammering against her ribs. She'd seen him before, the man in 43B, the one people whispered about. The one whose visitors arrived late and left looking shaken. She didn't know his name, and didn't want to. Rich men in towers like this were all the same. Entitled, dangerous in ways that didn't always show. And now she was trapped in an enclosed space with one. Just stay quiet, she told herself. 10 more floors. Then you're free. The elevator jolted. Not a gentle bump, a violent lurch that threw Camila against her cart. Cleaning supplies crashed to the floor. The lights flickered once, twice, then died, replaced by the sickly glow of emergency lighting. And then, nothing. No movement. No sound except their breathing. They were stuck. Before we continue, if you've ever felt invisible, like the world just looks right through you, drop a comment. When was the last time someone really saw you? The silence stretched between them like a living thing, thick with tension and the metallic scent of fear. Camila's hands trembled as she gripped the cart, her breath coming in short, shallow bursts. The emergency lights cast everything in shades of amber and shadow, making the small space feel even smaller. Don't panic. His voice cut through the darkness. Deep, accented, controlled. Camila's head snapped up. Don't panic? Easy for him to say. He wasn't a woman trapped in a metal box with a stranger who probably had more blood on his hands than just what stained his cuffs. She pressed the emergency button. Once. Twice. 10 times. Nothing. No response. No crackling intercom voice assuring them help was coming. Just the hollow click of a button that might as well have been decorative. That's not going to work. Enzo pulled out his phone, the screen's glow illuminating sharp cheekbones and eyes that looked almost black in this light. He frowned. No signal. Of course not. They were suspended somewhere between floors in a dead zone where even money couldn't buy connection. Camila backed into her corner, making herself small. Her nursing training from years ago, before life got complicated, before her sister died and left her with 2 kids and 3 jobs, kicked in. Assess the situation. Stay calm. Find the exits. There were no exits. Her eyes tracked to his hands as he pocketed his phone. That's when she saw it clearly. Blood on his knuckles, fresh enough to still be dark. More blood on his cuffs, spattered like paint. Her stomach lurched. Enzo caught her staring. For a moment, neither spoke. He could see the calculation in her eyes, the way she measured the distance between them, the way her body angled toward the doors like a sprinter waiting for the gun. She thought he was going to hurt her. The realization landed strange. Not offensive exactly, but hollow. Of course she did. Everyone feared him. That was the point. Fear was respect. Fear was control. But in this moment, trapped in amber light with a woman whose name he didn't know, fear felt like something else entirely. It felt lonely. Are you hurt? Her voice emerged quiet, almost reluctant, as if the words escaped against her better judgment. Enzo blinked. What? The blood. Camila gestured toward his hands, her own still shaking slightly. Are you hurt? The question disarmed him completely. In 20 years of violence, of building an empire on broken bones and terrified compliance, no one had ever asked him that. Not with genuine concern. Not like his pain mattered. It's not mine, he said automatically, then realized how that sounded. I know what you mean. Camilla's voice carried no judgment, just tired acceptance. She'd seen enough in her 34 years to recognize violence when it stood in front of her. I just needed to know if you were bleeding. If we're stuck here long, infection becomes an issue. Practical. Clinical. Like she was assessing a patient, not a threat. Enzo studied her. Really looked at her for the first time. She wore exhaustion like a second skin, the kind that came from months, maybe years of running on empty. Dark circles shadowed eyes that held intelligence and something else. Dignity. Despite the fear, despite being trapped with a man she clearly recognized as dangerous, she'd asked if he was hurt. I'm fine, he said softly. Then, because something in him cracked open. Thank you for asking. Camila nodded once and slid down the wall to sit, conserving energy. Her hands found her knees, gripping tight. She checked her watch. 3:04 a.m. How long before someone noticed the elevator wasn't working? In a building like this, probably not until morning when the day shift arrived. Hours. They could be here for hours. Do you have water? Enzo asked, surprising himself. She glanced up, suspicious. Why? Because you're pale and your hands are shaking. Could be shock, could be low blood sugar. Either way, you need to stay hydrated. Camila's eyes narrowed. How do you know? My daughter. The words escaped before he could stop them. She had hypoglycemia. I learned to recognize the signs. Had. Past tense. Camila caught it, filed it away. This dangerous man in his blood-stained suit had a daughter somewhere. Had. Which meant loss. Which meant he was human after all, under the violence and the expensive clothes. She reached into her cart, pulled out a dented water bottle, took a small sip, then offered it to him. Enzo stared at the bottle like it was a foreign object. When was the last time someone had shared something with him? Not transactionally, not out of fear, but just because. He took it, drank, handed it back. Their fingers brushed for a fraction of a second. Her calloused and cold, his warm and surprisingly gentle. The elevator creaked, settling deeper into its suspended state. And in that moment, something shifted. Not trust. Trust took time. But recognition. Two people trapped in a box, stripped of their armor by circumstance. No titles. No roles. Just two humans trying to survive the night. Camila, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. My name is Camila. Enzo felt something in his chest tighten. A name. She'd given him her name. In his world, names were weapons, leverage, tools for control. But the way she said it, hesitant, like offering a piece of herself, it felt sacred. Enzo, he replied, matching her quiet tone. I'm Enzo. The emergency lights flickered. The elevator groaned. And neither of them looked away. The name hung between them for exactly 4 seconds before Camila's practical instincts reasserted themselves. Names didn't change reality. She was still trapped in a metal box with a man who had someone else's blood on his hands. She pulled her knees closer to her chest, creating a smaller target. Old habits from old neighborhoods. Enzo noticed the withdrawal immediately. The way her body language shifted from tentative openness back to defensive caution. He recognized it because he'd spent decades making people recoil exactly that way. But now, on the receiving end, it stung in a way he hadn't anticipated. He moved to the opposite corner, giving her space. "I'm not going to hurt you. That's what they all say." The words escaped before Camila could stop them. She closed her eyes, cursing internally. Don't antagonize him. Just stay quiet, stay small, survive until rescue comes. But Enzo surprised her. He almost smiled, not amused, more sad. "You're right. Words are cheap." Silence filled the space again, but different now. Charged. Camila's mind raced through possibilities. The emergency crew would eventually notice the elevator malfunction. Morning shift started at 6. That was 3 hours away. Could she last 3 hours in here with him? Her stomach growled, loud in the quiet. She hadn't eaten since her shift at the diner ended at 11 p.m. Before that, half a granola bar at 3 p.m. Her blood sugar was definitely dropping. She could feel the familiar tremor in her hands, the slight dizziness. She had emergency glucose tablets in her bag. In the break room. 2 floors down. Might as well be on the moon. Enzo heard the stomach growl, saw the way she pressed a hand to her midsection, embarrassed. "When did you last eat?" "None of your business." The response came sharp, automatic. "Don't show weakness. Don't give him anything to use against you. It's a simple question. And I gave you a simple answer." Camila met his eyes, defiant despite the fear humming under her skin. "Look, I appreciate the concerned stranger act, but let's not pretend we're friends. You're—" She gestured vaguely at his suit, his whole presence. "Whatever you are. And I'm just trying to get home to my kids. So let's just sit here quietly until someone gets us out." Kids. Enzo filed that away. She had children waiting for her, depending on her. Which meant she couldn't afford to be cavalier with her health, couldn't afford to pass out from low blood sugar in a broken elevator. He shrugged off his jacket, revealing a crisp white shirt underneath. From an inner pocket, he pulled out a small black box, the kind expensive restaurants used for takeout. He opened it, prosciutto, aged cheese, artisan crackers, chocolate-covered strawberries. The remnants of a meal he'd been too tense to eat during the meeting. "I'm not hungry," he lied, pushing the box toward the middle of the elevator floor. "Take it." Camila stared at the food like it might bite her. Her stomach growled again, betraying her. "I don't want your charity." "It's not charity. It's common sense. If you pass out, I'll have to deal with a medical emergency in an enclosed space with no signal and no help coming. That benefits neither of us." Practical. Transactional. He'd framed it in a way that removed pity from the equation. Camila hated that it worked. Hated that she was actually considering it. "What do you want in return?" Because nothing was free. Not in her world. Not ever. Nothing. Enzo leaned back against the wall, tilting his head toward the ceiling. "I want nothing from you, Camila." The way he said her name, careful like it mattered, sent an unwelcome flutter through her chest. She crushed it immediately. This man was dangerous. The blood proved it. Whatever gentleness he was performing right now was just that. A performance. But her hands were shaking harder now. And the kids needed her functional, needed her to get home, to survive this night. She crawled forward, grabbed a cracker and some cheese, retreated to her corner. The food tasted like shame and necessity. She ate 3 crackers before her pride allowed her to stop. "Thank you," she forced out. "You're welcome." Minutes ticked by. Camila checked her phone. Still no signal, but she had 47% battery. She turned it off to conserve power. When she looked up, she found Enzo watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Not predatory. Not calculating. Just curious. "What?" she asked, defensive. You said kids. Plural. I did. How many? Camilla's jaw tightened. Why do you care? I don't know, Enzo admitted, and the honesty in his voice was almost more unsettling than if he'd lied. Maybe because we're stuck here. Maybe because I'm tired of silence. Maybe because you asked if I was hurt, and no one's done that in 20 years. The vulnerability in that admission cracked something in Camilla's armor. Not much. Just a hairline fracture. But enough. 2, she said quietly. My nephew and niece. 7 and 9. Their parents. Gone. The word landed heavy, final. She didn't elaborate. Couldn't. Not yet. Enzo nodded slowly, recognizing a closed door when he saw one. The daughter I mentioned. Anya. She's 12 now. I haven't seen her in 4 years. Camilla's eyes snapped to his. Why? Because her mother was right. I'm not safe to be around. He said it matter-of-factly, like reciting weather patterns. Some cages we build ourselves. The elevator creaked, a metallic groan that made them both tense. But it didn't fall, didn't move. Just settled, like an old building sighing. Camilla pulled her cleaning uniform tighter around herself. The temperature was dropping, or maybe that was just the adrenaline wearing off. Either way, she was cold. Tired. Scared in a way that had nothing to do with the man across from her. And everything to do with the fragility of her entire life. If she didn't make it home, who would get the kids to school? Who would pack their lunches, sign their permission slips, hold them when they woke up from nightmares? They'll find us, Enzo said, reading her spiral. Someone will notice. They always do. You sound certain. I'm not. He shrugged. But certainty is better than panic right now. Camilla almost laughed. Almost. You're really not what I expected. Neither are you. And there it was. The thing neither wanted to acknowledge. Whatever they'd assumed about each other, whatever boxes they'd tried to force each other into, reality was proving far more complicated. Dangerous. Camilla reminded herself. He's still dangerous. But so was she in her own way. Dangerous to his comfortable numbness, to the walls he'd built so carefully. Neither knew it yet, but the resistance they felt, the pulling away, the denial, was already failing. The real battle hadn't even started. An hour crawled by. Then another. The emergency lights dimmed slightly, conserving power, casting them both in deeper shadow. Camilla's phone read 4:37 a.m. when she checked it again. The kids would be waking up in 90 minutes, expecting her in the kitchen with breakfast and reassurance that the world was still predictable. She wasn't going to be there. The thought made her chest tight. Jessa, barely 17 herself, would have to handle it. Again. How many times could Camilla ask her babysitter to be more than she'd signed up for before the girl just stopped showing up? Tell me about them. Enzo's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. Camilla looked up, exhausted. What? Your nephew and niece. What are their names? She should have told him to mind his business. Should have maintained the walls. But the truth was, talking about Marcus and Sapphire was the only thing keeping her from completely falling apart right now. Marcus is 9. Smart as hell, too smart sometimes. Reads everything he can get his hands on. A small smile ghosted across her face. Sapphire is 7. She's fierce. Doesn't let anyone push her around, even though she's tiny. Like their aunt, Enzo observed quietly. Camilla's smile faded. I'm not fierce. I'm just surviving. That's the same thing. Was it? Camilla had never thought about it that way. Surviving felt passive, like floating in deep water, barely keeping your head above the surface. But maybe there was courage in that too. Maybe just lasting another day was its own kind of strength. "What about your daughter?" she asked, surprising herself. "Anya. What's she like?" Enzo's expression shifted, something painful and tender crossing his features. He was quiet so long Camila thought he might not answer. Then, stubborn. Creative. She used to draw constantly. Princesses, dragons, entire worlds on paper. He paused. "She has her mother's eyes. Brown, like autumn leaves. Nothing like mine." "Do you miss her?" "Every day." The admission came rough, unpolished. But missing her and deserving to see her are two different things. Camila studied him. This man who commanded fear, who wore violence like a second skin, who looked at her now with an ache so raw it made her own chest hurt. "Maybe you're right," she said softly. "Maybe you're not safe for her. But that doesn't mean you don't love her." Enzo's jaw tightened. No one had said that to him before. His ex-wife certainly hadn't. She'd called him a monster, a black hole, a man incapable of real feeling. And he'd believed her. Easier to believe it than to face the alternative, that he felt too much, cared too deeply, and had buried it all under concrete and cruelty because caring meant vulnerability, and vulnerability meant death in his world. "Why do you work 3 jobs?" he asked, redirecting before the emotion could drown him. Camila laughed. Bitter. Exhausted. "Because 2 wouldn't pay the rent." "That's not what I mean. You're educated. I can hear it in the way you speak, the way you assessed my injuries earlier. You have medical training." She stiffened. "How?" "You looked at my hands like a nurse, not a frightened civilian. Clinical. Diagnostic." Enzo tilted his head. "So why are you pushing a mop at 3 a.m. instead of working in a hospital?" The question pierced deeper than Camila wanted to admit. "Because life happened. Because my sister OD'd and left me with 2 kids and a mountain of her debts. Because nursing school costs money I don't have. Because sometimes dreams get traded for groceries and school supplies and keeping the lights on." Her voice cracked on the last word. She pressed her palms against her eyes, refusing to cry in front of this stranger. Refusing to be that vulnerable. But Enzo saw it anyway. The grief, the exhaustion, the sheer weight of carrying a world on shoulders that were already breaking. "I'm sorry," he said and meant it. Camila dropped her hands, eyes red-rimmed but dry. "Don't be. Sorry doesn't change anything." "No," Enzo agreed. "It doesn't." The elevator gave another groan, shifting slightly. Both of them tensed, waiting for the fall that didn't come. When the silence returned, it felt heavier, more oppressive. Camila's breathing had gotten shallower. Enzo noticed immediately. "Are you okay?" "Fine." But she wasn't. The space was feeling smaller. The air thinner. She wasn't claustrophobic, not normally. But hours trapped in a metal box were testing limits she didn't know she had. "Breathe with me," Enzo said, his voice dropping into something calm, authoritative but not aggressive. "In through your nose, 4 counts. Hold. Out through your mouth, 6 counts. I don't need." "Camila. Breathe." Maybe it was the command in his voice. Maybe it was the way he said her name like an anchor. But she found herself following his rhythm. And hold. Out. And hold. Out. Her heart rate slowed. The panic receded. "Where'd you learn that?" she asked after a minute. "Anya." She had panic attacks after the divorce. Enzo's voice carried old pain. "Her therapist taught me techniques to help her through them." So he'd been a father once. Not just a criminal, not just a powerful man, but someone who'd sat with a frightened child and counted breaths until she felt safe again. The contradiction was dizzying. Thank you, Camila whispered. You keep thanking me. Stop. Why? Because you don't owe me gratitude for basic human decency. Camila almost laughed. In my experience, basic human decency is pretty rare. In mine too, Enzo admitted. They fell into silence again, but it felt different now. Less hostile. More like two people in a lifeboat, conserving energy, accepting that they were in this together whether they liked it or not. Camila's stomach had settled with the food. Her blood sugar stabilized. But exhaustion was setting in, the kind that came from adrenaline crash, from a body that had been running on fumes for too long. Her eyes grew heavy. Sleep if you need to, Enzo said quietly. I'll stay awake. I'll wake you if anything changes. I don't trust you. I know. But you're about to pass out anyway, so trust becomes irrelevant. He was right. Her body was shutting down, survival instincts overriding logic. Sleep or collapse, those were the options. If you touch me, she started. I won't. Something in his voice made her believe him. Or maybe she was just too tired to care anymore. Camila let her eyes close, her head resting against the elevator wall. Within minutes, her breathing evened out into sleep. Enzo watched her. This woman who'd asked if he was hurt, who'd shared her water, who'd fought exhaustion and fear and still maintained her dignity. In sleep, the hardness left her face. She looked younger, softer, heartbreakingly vulnerable. He pulled off his suit jacket and moved slowly, carefully, draping it over her like a blanket. She didn't wake. And Enzo settled back into his corner, a guard over someone who'd never asked for his protection but was getting it anyway. We're halfway through their night together. What would you do trapped in an elevator with a stranger? Keep your walls up, or let them down? Comment below. Camila woke to the sound of sirens. Distant, muffled, but unmistakable. Her eyes snapped open, disoriented. The emergency lights were dimmer now, barely illuminating the small space. Enzo's jacket was draped over her shoulders, still warm from his body heat. She sat up quickly, the jacket sliding into her lap. Across from her, Enzo was awake, alert, phone in hand attempting calls again. What time is it? Her voice came out raspy. 5:43. You slept about an hour. He glanced at her, something unreadable in his expression. The siren started 2 minutes ago. Fire department, probably. Someone finally noticed. Relief flooded through her. The kids. She could still make it home before they left for school. Still hold Marcus when he got anxious about his spelling test. Still braid Sapphire's hair the way she liked. She folded his jacket carefully, held it out to him. Thank you. Enzo took it but didn't put it back on. Just held it between them like a white flag neither had agreed to wave. You didn't have to do that, Camila added quietly. You were cold. Such a simple statement. Such a complicated gesture. Men in her life had taken, demanded, disappeared. They didn't notice when she was cold. Didn't care if she was. The sirens grew louder. Voices echoed from somewhere above them. Rescue crews, maybe maintenance, coordinating. Help was coming. Soon they'd be pulled out of this suspended moment and back into their real lives. Back to being strangers who should never have crossed paths. The thought sat heavier than Camila expected. Can I ask you something? Enzo said suddenly. Camila tensed. Depends on the question. Your sister. You said she's gone. The kids' parents are gone. He paused, choosing words carefully. Was it recent? The air left Camila's lungs. She should have deflected. Should have told him it wasn't his business. But something about the approaching end, about knowing they'd never see each other again after this, loosened her tongue. 11 months ago. Jasmine. She was struggling. Had been for years. Camila's fingers twisted together in her lap. Pills first. Then harder stuff. I tried to help her, tried to get her into treatment, but you can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. The kids were there? Camila shook her head. With me. They'd been with me for 6 months already. Jasmine knew she couldn't take care of them anymore. That's the thing people don't understand. Addicts aren't monsters. My sister loved those babies more than anything. Loved them enough to let them go before she destroyed them completely. Her voice cracked. She cleared her throat, forced herself to continue. She OD'd in a motel room on the east side. Alone. The coroner said it was quick. Camila's laugh was broken glass. Like that makes it better. Like quick erases the fact that she died thinking she was worthless, thinking she'd failed everyone who ever loved her. Enzo's chest tightened. He knew that feeling, the certainty of your own worthlessness, the way it ate you from the inside until there was nothing left but hollow performance. You're raising them, he said. Not a question. I'm trying. 3 jobs, 60-hour weeks, and I'm still barely scraping by. Marcus needs tutoring I can't afford. Sapphire needs therapy to process losing her mom. And I'm drowning. The admission came out raw, unfiltered. But I can't let them see that. Can't let them know how close we are to losing everything. So I smile, I pack lunches, I show up. Even when I want to collapse. That's not drowning, Enzo said softly. That's swimming. Camila's eyes met his, surprised by the conviction in his voice. You're still moving forward, he continued. Still fighting. That's more than most people manage. Is that what you tell yourself? The question came gentler than she intended. That you're still fighting? Enzo's jaw tightened. Fair question. Deserved question. I tell myself I'm surviving, he admitted. But I'm starting to think there's a difference between surviving and living. When did you stop? Living, I mean. He thought about it, really thought about it. The day my ex-wife took Anya. 4 years, 2 months, 16 days ago. She said I was poisoned. That everything I touched turned dark. That she wouldn't let me corrupt our daughter the way I'd corrupted everything else in my life. Was she right? Most people would have rushed to reassure him, to offer empty platitudes. Camila just asked the hard question. Enzo appreciated that more than she could know. Yes, he said finally. And no. I've done terrible things. Built an empire on fear and violence. Hurt people who probably didn't deserve it. But I never brought that home. Never raised a hand to them. Never let that darkness touch Anya. Then why did she leave? Because she knew what I was. What I am. Enzo's voice dropped. And she was terrified that one day, someone would use Anya to get to me. That my choices would get our daughter killed. So she took her and disappeared into suburban anonymity where I couldn't follow. But you could, Camila said. Someone like you have resources. You could find them if you wanted. I could. Enzo met her eyes. But she was right to be afraid. My enemies are real. My world is dangerous. And loving me has consequences. He paused. So I let them go. Because sometimes love means staying away. Camila absorbed that, the weight of it, the sacrifice. She judged him as a monster, a criminal, someone defined by violence. But he was also a father who loved his daughter enough to live with the agony of her absence. People were complicated. Heartbreak didn't discriminate. I have something, Enzo said suddenly. He reached into his wallet, pulled out a small worn photograph, handed it to Camila. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, grinning at the camera with missing front teeth. Brown eyes, messy pigtails, holding up a drawing of a dragon. That's Anya. 3 weeks before they left. His voice was steady, but barely. I carry it everywhere. Some days it's all that keeps me human. Camila stared at the photo, throat tight. This little girl had no idea her father was breaking himself to keep her safe. No idea that his absence was the ultimate act of love. She handed the photo back carefully, like it was made of glass. She's beautiful. She is. The sirens were right outside now. Voices shouting coordinates. Metal grinding against metal somewhere above them. Camila pulled out her phone, turned it on. The battery was at 31%. She opened her photos, scrolled, turned the screen toward Enzo. Marcus and Sapphire, dressed in mismatched pajamas, grinning at the camera. Marcus's gap-toothed smile. Sapphire's wild curls escaping their pigtails. That's them, she said quietly. My reason for everything. Enzo looked at the photo. Really looked. 2 kids who had no idea their aunt was holding their world together with duct tape and determination. 2 kids who'd already lost so much and were still smiling because someone loved them fiercely enough to make them feel safe. They're lucky to have you, he said. I'm lucky to have them. They saved me. Gave me a reason to keep going when I wanted to give up. The elevator lurched, not falling, but being manually moved. Rescue was seconds away now. Their time was ending. And neither of them was ready. The elevator shuddered, metal scraping against metal as the rescue crews worked to pry the doors open manually. Voices grew clearer. Firefighters coordinating, someone asking if anyone was inside. Here! Camila shouted, stumbling to her feet. We're here. 2 people. Enzo stood more slowly, brushing off his pants, slipping back into the armor of composure. But his eyes stayed on Camila, the relief flooding her face, the way her whole body sagged with the knowledge that she'd make it home to those kids. Ma'am, can you hear me? A voice called through the crack forming in the doors. We're going to get you out. Are either of you injured? No, Camila called back. We're okay. The word hung strange in the air. Okay. Were they? Physically, yes. But something had shifted in the past few hours. Something neither could quite name. The doors groaned, opening inch by painful inch. Camila glanced back at Enzo, suddenly uncertain. What were the rules here? Did you say goodbye to someone who'd seen you cry, who'd covered you with his jacket, who'd shared his deepest wounds in a metal box suspended between floors? Almost there, the firefighter called. Just a few more seconds. Enzo moved closer. Not threatening, just present. Camila. She turned, met his eyes. In the growing light from the hallway, she could see him more clearly now. Not a monster. Not a saint. Just a man who was tired and lonely and trying to figure out if there was any path back to being human. Thank you, he said quietly. For seeing me. Her throat tightened. Thank you for staying awake. For keeping me safe. I didn't. You did. She said it firmly, leaving no room for his self-deprecation. Whatever else you are, whatever you've done, tonight you were kind. That matters. The doors wrenched fully open. Bright lights flooded in, flashlights, emergency lighting, the concerned faces of firefighters in full gear. Hands reached for Camila, helping her step over the gap between the elevator and the hallway floor. Ma'am, are you all right? Any pain, dizziness? I'm fine. I just need to get home to my kids. One of the firefighters was already calling for a medical evaluation, standard protocol. Camila started to protest, but another hand landed on her shoulder. Enzo, stepping out behind her. She has hypoglycemia, he said calmly, authoritatively. She ate about 2 hours ago. Blood sugar should be stable, but she should be monitored. The paramedic nodded, appreciating the information. And you, sir? I'm fine. They were separated quickly. Camila guided to one side for evaluation, Enzo to another for questioning about the incident. Building management appeared, apologizing profusely, promising investigations. Dimitri materialized from somewhere, efficient and cold, already on his phone coordinating damage control. But across the chaos, across the 20 feet of hallway between them, Enzo and Camila kept finding each other's eyes. She looked so small under the bright lights, the paramedic checking her vitals while she kept glancing at her phone. He knew she was calculating how fast she could get home, whether she'd have time to shower before the kids woke up, if they'd noticed her absence. He wanted to help. Wanted to offer his driver, his resources, anything to ease the burden he'd seen weighing her down. But men like him didn't get to play hero. And women like her didn't need saving. They needed systemic change, living wages, affordable childcare, a world that didn't grind people into dust for trying to survive. The paramedic cleared Camila. You're good to go, ma'am. But please eat something substantial soon, and monitor your blood sugar. I will. Thank you. She grabbed her cleaning cart, still in the elevator, supplies scattered. As she bent to collect the bottles and rags, Enzo appeared beside her, crouching down to help. You don't have to, she started. I know. They worked in silence, gathering her tools. His expensive suit was rumpled now, stained with the dust of the elevator floor. Her uniform was wrinkled, her hijab slightly askew. They both looked like they'd survived something. Because they had. When everything was back in the cart, they stood. The hallway had cleared somewhat, firefighters packing up, building management conferring in hushed tones, Dimitri hovering impatiently near the stairwell. This was it. The moment they'd go back to being strangers. Camila to her 3 jobs and 2 kids. Enzo to his empire and emptiness. I should go, Camila said, though her feet didn't move. Yes. But neither of them moved. This was. Camila searched for words. I don't even know what this was. Real, Enzo said simply. Whatever else it was real. Camila's eyes burned. She blinked hard. She didn't cry in front of people. Didn't let them see how much everything hurt. How close to breaking she always was. But one tear escaped anyway, tracking down her cheek. Enzo's hand lifted, instinct, not calculation, and his thumb caught the tear before it fell. The touch was so gentle it made her ache. You're going to be okay, he said softly. Those kids are going to be okay. Because you won't let it be any other way. How do you know? Because I saw you in that elevator. You don't know how to quit. Camila laughed, the sound wet and broken. I want to quit every single day. But you don't. That's what matters. She wanted to ask for his number. Wanted to say, let's get coffee, or maybe we could talk again, or any of the normal things people said when they'd connected with someone. But this wasn't normal. He was dangerous, she was barely surviving, and whatever had happened in that elevator couldn't exist in daylight. Take care of yourself, Enzo, she whispered. You too, Camila. She gripped her cart and started down the hallway, each step feeling heavier than the last. At the service entrance, she paused, looked back. Enzo stood exactly where she'd left him, watching her go. Their eyes met one last time across the distance. And then Dimitri stepped between them, blocking the view. Sir, we need to leave. The media will be here soon. Give me a moment. We don't have a moment. I said give me a moment. The command was sharp enough to make Dimitri step back. But when Enzo looked again, Camila was gone. The hallway was empty except for abandoned cleaning supplies and the lingering scent of lemon and something sweet. Enzo stood there for a long moment, feeling the absence like a physical wound. Then he straightened his shoulders, smoothed his ruined suit, and followed Dimitri toward the stairs. Back to his life. Back to his empire. Back to being the man everyone feared and no one knew. But in his pocket, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, a text from his head of security, routine check-in. And beneath it, a photo he didn't remember taking. Must have happened when he picked up his phone from the elevator floor. Camila, asleep against the wall, his jacket draped over her shoulders. Her face soft and unguarded. Peaceful despite everything. He stared at the image for a long moment. Then, instead of deleting it, he saved it. Just to remember that for a few hours, he'd been human. That someone had asked if he was hurt. That he'd been seen. 3 days passed like years. Camila went through the motions. Breakfast with the kids, school drop-off, her shift at the diner, the afternoon cleaning job, picking up Marcus and Sapphire, homework supervision, dinner, bedtime stories, then back to the tower for her night shift. The same routine that had defined her life for months. Except now it felt hollow. She kept thinking about the elevator. About a man who'd covered her with his jacket, who'd shared his daughter's photo, who'd looked at her like she mattered. It was ridiculous. Dangerous. She had no business thinking about Enzo Volkov, whose last name she'd learned from gossip among the other cleaning staff. That's the Russian, Rosa had whispered during their break. The one who owns half the city. They say he's connected to everything. Drugs, gambling, worse. Girl, you were lucky he didn't. He didn't, Camila had cut her off. He was fine. But Rosa's words burrowed under her skin. What did she really know about him? A few hours of vulnerability didn't erase a lifetime of violence. She'd been stupid to see anything else. On the 4th night, she returned to the tower for her shift. Her stomach twisted as she entered the building, but she forced herself forward. She needed this job. Needed all 3 jobs. Her feelings, whatever confused mess they were, didn't get to interfere with survival. She was mopping the lobby when Dimitri appeared. Ms. Camila? His accent was thick, his expression unreadable. Her blood ran cold. Yes. Mr. Volkov would like to speak with you. I'm working. He's aware. Dimitri's tone suggested refusal wasn't an option. Penthouse. Now. Every instinct screamed danger. But the other cleaning staff were watching, and Dimitri's hand hovered near his jacket in a way that suggested this was a request in name only. Camila set down her mop and followed him to the private elevator, the one that went straight to Enzo's penthouse. The doors closed, and her heart hammered against her ribs. What did he want? To offer her money to keep quiet about something? To threaten her? Or, God, the thought made her sick. Had she misread everything, and this was when the real danger started? The elevator opened directly into a sprawling penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary, art on the walls that looked important and cold. Enzo stood at the window, still in a suit, still powerful and controlled. But when he turned, she saw something in his face that stopped her retreat. He looked as conflicted as she felt. Camila. Her name in his voice still did something to her chest. Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice? No. At least he was honest. I'm sorry for that. What do you want? He moved closer, and she forced herself not to step back. But then he held out an envelope. Thick, cream-colored, expensive. What is this? Open it. With trembling fingers she did. Inside, a cashier's check. Made out to her. For $50,000. The air left her lungs. What? For the kids. For nursing school. For whatever you need. Enzo's voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed something desperate. I can't stop thinking about you. About Marcus and Sapphire. About the fact that someone like you is working herself to death while people like me. No. Camila shoved the envelope back at him. Absolutely not. It's not charity. It's exactly charity. Her voice rose, anger flooding through the confusion. What did you think? That you could throw money at me and I'd what? Be grateful? Fall into your arms? Become your kept woman on the side? That's not. Enzo's jaw tightened. I'm trying to help. I don't need your help. I don't need your guilt money or whatever this is. She was shaking now, all the fear and attraction and confusion of the past few days crystallizing into rage. You think because we had one meaningful conversation that you know me? That you have the right to fix my life. I know you're drowning. So what? At least I'm drowning on my own terms. At least I'm not building my survival on other people's suffering. The words came out cruel, cutting. She saw them land, saw Enzo flinch. You're right, he said quietly. You're absolutely right. The agreement deflated her anger, leaving only exhaustion. Why am I really here, Enzo? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, because for 3 days, I haven't been able to breathe without thinking about you. Because you asked if I was hurt, and that simple question broke something in me. Because I'm tired of being empty, and for a few hours in that elevator, I wasn't. Camila's throat tightened. That's not real. That was survival, adrenaline, proximity. It was real. He moved closer, and this time she did step back. Tell me you haven't thought about it. About me. It doesn't matter what I've thought. Her voice cracked. You're dangerous. Your world is dangerous. And I have 2 kids who need me alive and functional, not caught up in whatever this is. I would never let anything happen to you. You can't promise that. The words ripped out of her. You can't promise safety while living in violence. You can't be good for me while being everything I should run from. Silence crashed between them. Enzo's phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Insistent. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted. Something dark. Something cold. The man from the elevator disappeared, replaced by the one everyone feared. I have to take this, he said, voice flat. Of course you do. He answered in Russian. Harsh, clipped. Camila didn't understand the words, but she understood the tone. Threats. Orders. The casual deployment of power that destroyed lives. When he hung up, she was already moving toward the elevator. Camila, wait. I can't do this. She jabbed the button repeatedly. I can't be whatever you want me to be. I can't save you, and I won't let you destroy me trying. I'm not asking you to save me. Then what are you asking? The elevator arrived. Doors opened. She stepped inside, and this time it felt like escape. Enzo stood in the doorway, blocking it from closing. I'm asking if you felt it too. If I'm crazy, or if something happened in that elevator that neither of us expected. Camila's eyes burned. Yes, I felt it. And it terrifies me. Why? Because I can't afford to feel anything for you. The confession tore out of her. Because I'm barely surviving, and you're the kind of complication that ends in heartbreak or worse. Because those kids have already lost everyone they loved, and I will not let them lose me too. She hit the button. The doors started closing. I'll stay away, Enzo said, his voice breaking. If that's what you need, I'll stay away. The door sealed shut, and Camila collapsed against the wall, sobs finally breaking free. She'd done the right thing. The safe thing. So why did it feel like she'd just made the worst mistake of her life? 2 weeks of silence. Enzo honored his word. No more surprise summons, no messages, no contact. Camila returned to her routine, and it should have been a relief. It wasn't. She moved through her days like a ghost. Made breakfast, packed lunches, smiled at the kids, worked her shifts. But something vital had been cut out of her, leaving only the mechanics of survival. "Auntie." Sapphire tugged her sleeve one morning. "Are you sad?" "No, baby. Just tired." "You're always tired." Marcus looked up from his cereal, too observant for 9 years old. "But this is different. You look gray." "Gray." Perfect description. She felt gray, colorless, flat, going through motions without meaning. That night, she couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about Enzo's face when the elevator doors closed. Kept wondering if he was okay, if he was alone, if he thought about her the way she couldn't stop thinking about him. At 3 a.m., she gave up on sleep and sat at her tiny kitchen table, surrounded by bills she couldn't pay and dreams she'd abandoned. Her phone sat silent on the table. She didn't have his number. Didn't even know how to reach him if she wanted to. Which she didn't. She'd made the right choice. Hadn't she? The knock on her door at 3:47 a.m. nearly stopped her heart. Camila approached cautiously, checked the peephole, and her breath caught. Enzo stood in the hallway. No suit, no armor. Just jeans and a dark sweater, looking exhausted and raw and utterly human. She opened the door. "What are you doing here?" "I tried to stay away." His voice was rough. "I really tried. But Camila, I can't go back to being empty. Not now that I know what it feels like to be seen. You can't be here. The kids are asleep." I checked. He managed a small smile. "I've been standing outside for 20 minutes, waiting for the lights to go off in their room." She didn't know if it was creepy or sweet or both. "I know I'm dangerous," Enzo continued, words tumbling out like he'd been rehearsing them for days. "I know my world is violent and complicated. I know you have every reason to slam this door in my face and never think about me again. Then why are you here?" "Because I'm choosing differently." He said it simply, like it was obvious. "I'm choosing you. I'm choosing to dismantle the empire, to walk away from the violence, to become someone who might actually deserve." "Stop." Camila held up her hand. "You can't do that. You can't rebuild your entire life for someone you barely know." "I'm not doing it for you." Enzo's eyes held hers. "I'm doing it for me. Because that elevator showed me I've been dead for 4 years, and I'm tired of being a ghost. You just reminded me what living feels like." Tears spilled down Camila's cheeks. "I'm so scared." "Me too. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be anything except exhausted and surviving." "Then we'll figure it out together." He didn't move closer, didn't push. Just stood there, offering himself. "Or we won't. Maybe this crashes and burns. Maybe I'm too broken, or the timing's wrong, or the universe just doesn't want us to work. But Camila, I'd rather try and fail than spend the rest of my life wondering what if." She was crying openly now. "You promise? You promise you're really choosing to be different?" "I've already started. No more meetings. No more violence. I'm liquidating assets, setting up legitimate businesses, building distance from everything that made me who I was." He paused. "It's terrifying. But for the first time in 20 years, I feel like I'm walking towards something instead of running from everything." Camila wiped her eyes, heart hammering. This was insane. Reckless. Everything she'd sworn to avoid. But it was also hope. Real, terrifying, beautiful hope. The kids are my priority, she said firmly. Always. If you can't accept that, I wouldn't respect you if they weren't. And I won't be your project. Your redemption arc. If we do this, it's because we're choosing each other, not because you're trying to fix me or I'm trying to save you. Deal. She took a shaky breath. Okay. 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 A small smile broke through her tears. Come back tomorrow. 6 p.m. We'll have dinner. Me, you, Marcus, and Sapphire. You'll meet them properly. And we'll see. We'll see if this is real outside of elevators and 3 a.m. conversations. Enzo's face transformed. Not the practiced smile of a powerful man, but genuine joy. I'll be here. And Enzo. She caught his hand as he turned to leave. Thank you. For choosing to be better. Thank you for making me want to be. 6 months later. Camila wiped down the counter of her small but cheerful kitchen, humming along to Marcus's playlist. Sapphire was in the living room, sprawled on the floor with crayons, drawing what looked like a dragon. Marcus sat at the table, nose buried in a book. Some fantasy series Enzo had bought him. The apartment was still small, still cramped. But it felt different now. Lighter. Like hope had moved in and decided to stay. The knock at the door made her smile. Right on time. She opened it to find Enzo, arms full of groceries. He'd traded his expensive suits for jeans and sweaters, his carefully styled hair for something softer. He looked younger. Happier. You brought too much again, she said, but kissed him anyway. Quick, sweet, domestic. Sapphire specifically requested ice cream, he defended. And Marcus mentioned wanting to try cooking pasta from scratch, so I got the equipment. You spoil them. I spoil all of you. He set the bags down, pulled her close. And I have 0 regrets. She melted into him for just a moment. It still felt surreal sometimes. This gentleman who helped with homework and remembered Sapphire's favorite color and showed up every single day, reliable as sunrise. Enzo! Sapphire abandoned her drawing, launching herself at his legs. Did you bring the stuff for dragon cookies? Dragon cookies? He scooped her up. I thought we were making regular cookies. Regular is boring. Dragons are better. Dragons are definitely better, he agreed solemnly. Marcus. Opinions on dragon cookies. Marcus looked up from his book, grinning. Only if they breathe fire. Cinnamon flames. Obviously. Enzo set Sapphire down, started unpacking groceries. He moved through Camila's kitchen like he belonged there, because he did. Not through money or power, but through showing up, day after day, choosing them. Choosing differently. Later, after dragon cookies with cinnamon flames and pasta attempts, mostly successful. After Marcus won 3 rounds of chess and Sapphire showed off her latest drawings. After bedtime stories and goodnight hugs, Camila and Enzo sat on her tiny balcony, watching the city lights. Anya called today, Enzo said quietly. Camila's hand found his. Yeah. Her mom finally agreed to supervised visits. Once a month to start, but... His voice caught. I get to see my daughter again. Enzo, that's amazing. She's nervous. I'm terrified. But Camila, I get another chance. To be her father. To show her I'm different. You are different. Camila leaned her head on his shoulder. I see it every day. They sat in comfortable silence, 2 people who'd been broken and lonely finding wholeness in each other. It wasn't perfect. Camila still worked too hard, still worried about money. Enzo still had nightmares about his old life, still struggled with trusting his own goodness. But they were healing. Together. Do you ever think about that elevator? Enzo asked. Camila smiled. Every day. Me too. He kissed her temple. Best worst night of my life. Mine too. He pulled something from his pocket. A small velvet box. Camila's breath caught. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. I want to do it right. Meet Anya first, make sure the kids are ready, give us more time. He opened the box. Inside, a simple silver bracelet with a small charm. An elevator. But I wanted you to have this. To remember that sometimes the worst moments lead to the best things. That being trapped can actually be freedom, if you're brave enough to be seen. Camila's eyes filled. It's perfect. He fastened it around her wrist, and she held it up to the light, the charm catching the glow from the city below. Are you happy? Enzo asked softly. She thought about it, really thought about it. About Marcus thriving in school now that they could afford tutoring. About Sapphire's laughter filling rooms that used to echo with grief. About herself, still working hard but no longer drowning, no longer invisible. About this man beside her, who'd chosen to dismantle everything he'd built to become someone worthy of the love he'd never thought he deserved. Yes, she said and meant it completely. I'm happy. Enzo pulled her close, and they stayed there on the balcony, two souls who'd found each other in the most unlikely place, proving that even in darkness, even when trapped, even when everything seems impossible, love finds a way. The city hummed below them. Somewhere, an elevator moved between floors, carrying strangers who might become something more. And Camila, for the first time in years, felt absolutely certain that everything was going to be okay. Better than okay. Beautiful. So here's the final question. Do you believe people can truly change? Have you ever given someone a second chance and been surprised by who they became? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about transformation, love, and the courage it takes to be seen. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.